Things took a wild turn at my baby shower when Gary's mother, Barbara, completely lost it. She hurled insults my way, attempted to name my baby, and ultimately ended up getting arrested after creating a huge scene. I'm a 29-year-old woman, happily married to my amazing husband, Gary, and expecting our first child. This journey has been incredibly exciting for us. Gary and I have been together for a long time, tying the knot 4 years ago. After a year of trying, we were overjoyed to discover my pregnancy 6 months ago. The news of our little one on the way has brought so much happiness into our lives, and every day brings us closer to meeting our bundle of joy. My pregnancy has been an emotional roller coaster, filled with thrilling moments, especially when I first felt our baby kick. Gary has been my rock through it all, attending every doctor's appointment, reading parenting books with me, and even helping set up a cozy nursery for our upcoming arrival. We're fully in baby mode now, choosing names, decorating the nursery, and making plans for the future. Gary is so excited to be a dad, and it warms my heart to see how dedicated he is as we prepare for this new chapter together. 2 months ago, we decided it was finally time to share the joyful news of my pregnancy with our families. After reaching the crucial first trimester milestone, we invited all our parents, close relatives, and friends for a lunch, eager to celebrate. When they arrived and saw my growing belly, their reactions shifted from surprise to pure joy. My mother was so overwhelmed that she burst into tears upon realizing I was pregnant, understanding why we had kept it a secret and expressing her excitement about becoming a grandmother. However, Barbara's response was far from joyful. Instead of sharing in our happiness, she reacted with anger upon discovering we hadn't told her sooner. She felt excluded and accused me of intentionally keeping her in the dark. No matter how much I tried to explain our decision, she remained upset and refused to engage with me. Her disapproval loomed over what should have been a joyous occasion. Throughout the gathering, Barbara ignored me entirely, disrespecting not just me but also my mother, who had always been kind to her. While the rest of the family interacted and enjoyed the celebration, Barbara was glued to her phone, openly expressing her frustration about being left out of such an important moment. As the tension mounted, both my husband and his brother picked up on her discontent. Reaching my breaking point, I stepped outside to gather myself. My mother, noticing my distress, came to comfort me until I felt ready to return. As the evening wrapped up, Barbara deliberately made a point to say goodbye to me last. After a day filled with disapproving glances from my family and Gary's, she barely managed more than a quick hi and bye. Later, when Gary walked them to their car, a heated argument ensued that I could hear from the foyer. Barbara took that moment to vent her frustrations, further escalating the already tense situation. Thankfully, by this time, our guests had left, leaving only my parents, Gary, and his parents in the house. She angrily confronted Gary, saying she couldn't believe I had the audacity to keep the pregnancy from her and that I didn't consider family. Gary calmly explained that we both decided to wait until we were out of the danger zone before sharing the news, but hearing this only fueled Barbara's anger. The conversation quickly escalated. "Barbara, this is our grandchild we're talking about. I deserve to know from the very beginning." Gary, "Mom, it's not about deserving or not. It was a decision we made together. She just wanted to be cautious." Barbara, "Cautious? I am her mother-in-law. She should have trusted me with this. This is all her fault." At that moment, I saw Gary's patience snap. Until then, he had kept his composure, but hearing his mother's continued accusations made his face turn red with anger. He firmly told her that if she was blaming me, she should also blame him since they had made the decision together. He insisted she needed to let go of her anger and stop overreacting. Barbara retaliated, saying he was letting me control everything and that, as his mother, she should have been the first to know about her grandchild. But Gary stood his ground, expressing his love for her while insisting she needed to leave and cool down before saying something she would regret. As she stormed off, I could see the frustration and disappointment on his face. I hadn't even realized I was crying until Gary rushed to comfort me, guiding me back into the house. My parents, sensing the tension, stayed back until I felt composed, but Barbara wasn't done yet. That night, I received a message from her that left my anxiety spiking. It read, "I must say, I am deeply disappointed in you. You knowingly kept a significant piece of information from me, and I find it absolutely unforgivable. I can't believe you would rob me of the joy of knowing about my grandchild from the very beginning. This is not how a family should operate, and I find it disrespectful and hurtful. Instead of apologizing for your immature actions, you are causing a divide between me and my son. Shame on you. Her words stung deeply, mixing anger with hurt. I showed the message to Gary, who was furious. He couldn't understand why his mother would react this way and put all the blame on me. Gary decided to call her, warning her against sending such negative messages that could upset me further. He even threatened to cut her off if her behavior didn't change. Faced with the possibility of losing him, Barbara quickly altered her approach. Instead of acknowledging her role in the conflict, she suggested a solution. The only way she could forgive us for what she saw as a slight was if she could throw us a baby shower. Both Gary and I were surprised and skeptical of her sudden change of heart. She continued to insist that nothing would bring her more joy than throwing a grand celebration for me and her grandchild, promising to take care of everything. Gary looked at me, curious, but I remained wary. To me, it felt more like a tactic to regain control rather than a sincere attempt at reconciliation. Despite my concerns, Gary, always the peacemaker, considered the idea. I expressed my worries, stressing that accepting her offer might only reinforce her belief that her behavior was acceptable. Gary understood my perspective but hoped that allowing his mother to host a baby shower might help mend our relationship before the baby arrived. I begrudgingly agreed, and Gary informed his mother to proceed with the planning for my baby shower. She was ecstatic, expressing her gratitude for allowing her to take charge. Despite entrusting her with this responsibility, I had hoped there would be some collaboration, where she would seek my input and consider my preferences for my own celebration. With the events still a month away, I anticipated a more thoughtful planning process. However, to my dismay, I soon realized that my mother-in-law had taken complete control. She bought all the decorations, chose the games, and planned activities without consulting anyone, including me. When my mother reached out to her to discuss the baby shower, Barbara informed her that everything had been decided and that it would be a surprise for me. The lack of communication and consideration left me feeling frustrated, as what should have been a joyful occasion was being shaped without regard for my wishes. On the day of the baby shower, I walked into the venue, a local banquet hall, surrounded by my close friends who were eager to celebrate the upcoming arrival of our little one. The decorations, however, were shocking. A sea of brown and beige balloons filled the room, creating a theme that was entirely her creation. I absolutely hated it. It resembled a misguided attempt at a safari. I had envisioned soft pastels and delicate touches, but clearly, my mother-in-law had gone the opposite route. Tension escalated when I spotted an enormous banner near the entrance featuring a collage of Gary's baby pictures with Barbara. Everyone looked confused, unsure why she would choose to display his childhood photos during my baby shower. When I inquired, she laughed it off, claiming she expected our baby to look just like him and was proud of how cute he was as a child. I stared at her, bewildered. It was evident she wanted the day to be more about her experiences as a mother than about the arrival of our baby. As guests continued to arrive, their expressions ranged from confusion to polite discomfort. The combination of the unappealing decorations and the oversized banner created an ambience far from the elegant celebration I had envisioned. I exchanged apologetic glances with my friends, who clearly shared my sentiment. My mother walked in, her eyes widening in shock at the chaos that had unfolded. When she spotted the banner, disbelief filled her face. In a bold move, my mother approached the banner, her expression shifting from disbelief to determination. Without a word, she grabbed it and removed it from its prominent display. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward her as she carried it away. I felt a surge of gratitude toward her unwavering support. Barbara, engrossed in conversation with other guests, looked horrified as my mother tossed the banner into the trash. "What do you think you're doing?" "That was a special touch," Barbara exclaimed. "This celebration is about my daughter and her baby, not a showcase of your personal achievement," my mother replied. Undeterred, guests shifted uncomfortably as the confrontation unfolded. Realizing her control was slipping, Barbara attempted to regain composure. "I thought it would be nice for everyone to see how cute Gary was as a child," she retorted, masking her annoyance. My mother pressed on. "You begged my daughter to let you throw this baby shower, after your behavior last time. This day is not about you." The room hushed as the tension thickened, and Barbara retreated with a forced smile. As the shower continued, I tried to focus on the positive energy from my friends and family despite the lingering tension. I thought there would be no more surprises from my mother-in-law, who seemed to be indulging in a bit too much wine. Then came the gift opening session, and I was delighted by everyone's thoughtful presence. However, my anticipation turned to bewilderment when Barbara handed me an oversized gift box with an exaggerated grin. the room fell silent, and I felt a mix of embarrassment and frustration. In an effort to ease the tension, I mustered a weak smile and thanked her, suppressing the urge to roll my eyes. The situation escalated further during the cake-cutting ceremony. Barbara had ordered an extravagant tiered cake, and she made a grand show of it, clinking her glass to garner attention. I was growing increasingly annoyed, wondering what she was planning now. Finally, she announced that she had come up with the perfect name for our baby girl. I froze. We hadn't even settled on a name ourselves. She proudly declared that the baby would be named after her great-grandmother, with a name that sounded straight out of a Victorian novel. I was shocked and irritated that she assumed she had the naming rights. I politely explained that my husband and I wanted to choose our baby's name together. It was a decision we wanted to make as parents. However, Barbara wasn't having it. She insisted that if I was a good daughter-in-law, I should accept the name since she had spent so much money on the baby shower. Her sense of entitlement was astonishing. I firmly stated that only my husband and I had the right to name our baby, regardless of who hosted the shower. At that point, Barbara started yelling at me in front of everyone, claiming I was extremely disrespectful and should be grateful for all she had done. She even criticized my upbringing, insisting that I should thank her instead of denying her the right to name the baby. Barbara grew increasingly aggressive, pointing her fingers at my face, and my mother instinctively stepped in front of me as a shield. Barbara's voice boomed as she asserted herself as the true mommy of my baby, claiming that since she gave birth to my husband, it was his sperm that got me pregnant. Her words were beyond appalling. Despite my mother's attempts to intervene and quell Barbara's hurtful remarks, her anger only intensified. She hurled insults at me, suggesting my mom had raised me poorly. It was evident she had drunk too much, and any effort to reason with her was futile. The atmosphere quickly shifted from celebratory to incredibly uncomfortable for everyone present. Realizing I had endured enough humiliation, I decided to reclaim some dignity and walk out with the gifts my friends had brought. I left behind the present from Barbara, hoping to distance myself from the chaos. But in her drunken state, Barbara lunged at me, snatching the gifts from my hands and tossing them to the ground. She accused me of being ungrateful and claimed I was trying to come between her and her son. As the tension escalated, I noticed some guests beginning to film the incident. Desperate to restore some order, I asked a close friend to kindly ask everyone to leave. However, Barbara remained undeterred, continuing her tirade and creating a scene that no one could have predicted for what was meant to be a joyous occasion. Frustration boiled over, and I felt increasingly unsafe with her aggressive behavior. Ultimately, I made the difficult decision to call the police to remove her from the situation. Yes, I had to involve law enforcement at my own baby shower because of my toxic mother-in-law. When the officers arrived, Barbara went into full drama mode, pointing fingers at me and attempting to paint me as the instigator of the chaos. Fortunately, the police were understanding and tried to reason with her, but her drunkenness only escalated her behavior, and she started yelling at the officers, which only worsened her situation. In the end, she was arrested on the spot. I left the event with my mother and close friends, all of us shaken by the unsettling turn of events. Since that day, my husband and I have been dealing with the aftermath. Barbara is on a full-blown guilt trip, playing the victim and seeking sympathy from family members who weren't present. Although my husband understands why I called the cops, he thinks I might have gone too far and could have called him or his father for help instead. So, Reddit, AITA for calling the cops on my mother-in-law for ruining my baby shower and claiming to be the real mommy of my baby? Update 1. I'm overwhelmed by the response to my post. Thank you all for supporting my decision to call the cops. I had never seen this aggressive side of my mother-in-law before, as I usually only interacted with her during holidays. The level of aggression she displayed at the baby shower genuinely left me concerned about potential harm, especially regarding my unborn child. Since the incident, every guest has reached out to offer their support. Some even shared recordings of the entire debacle, which I plan to show my husband. This weekend, I intend to have a serious conversation with him about our future with his mother. Update 2. I showed my husband the recordings, and we had a serious discussion about everything that happened. I detailed how his mother's behavior escalated, from the shocking pregnancy revelation to the chaotic baby shower, including the yelling and bizarre gifts. Watching the videos horrified him. It brought him face to face with the uncomfortable truth about his mother's actions. He sincerely apologized for underestimating the severity of the situation and acknowledged that I was right to call the police. I had no idea it got this bad. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, he said, his expression a mix of regret and frustration. He admitted he never imagined his mother could behave so toxic. He reassured me that he was on my side, emphasizing that my safety and well-being, especially during pregnancy, were his top priorities. We discussed how his mother's need for control and validation overshadowed what should have been a joyful occasion. Gary expressed his concerns about her behavior, agreeing that it had crossed a line. I told him I wanted to cut all ties with his mother after how she had acted in front of everyone. I explained that he could maintain a relationship with her if he chose, but our child and I would not be part of her life until she sought counseling for her aggressive behavior. Hearing this, Gary agreed that what she did was beyond unacceptable and was willing to sever ties too. I assured him that he didn't have to, but he insisted that his mother's disrespect meant she didn't deserve to be in our lives anymore. He understood that this wasn't just about the baby shower, it was likely the culmination of long-standing issues. Moving forward, Gary committed to communicating our decision to his mother, making it clear that cutting her off was his choice. I also asked him to warn her that if she showed up unexpectedly at our home to force me to accept her back into our lives, I would have to call the police again. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update. To everyone asking about my health and the baby, we're doing well and can't wait to meet our little one. Since the incident, we've ceased all communication with Barbara. Gary spoke with his parents, and his father assured him he would ensure that my mother-in-law understands our boundaries and respects our decision. Cutting ties with Barbara has brought a noticeable shift in our lives. The absence of constant drama and toxicity has created a sense of peace in our home. Gary and I can now focus on preparing for our baby's arrival without the cloud of Barbara's disruptions. The support we've received from friends and family has been invaluable during this challenging time. My parents and close friends have been incredible sources of strength, offering encouragement and understanding. Even family members who weren't aware of Barbara's behavior have come forward to express their support after witnessing the shocking events through viral videos from the baby shower. Our journey is far from over, but this experience has strengthened our bond and emphasized the importance of facing challenges together. The decision to sever ties with Barbara wasn't made lightly, but it's been necessary for our well-being. While challenges may linger, we're optimistic about the positive changes this choice has brought to our lives. As we eagerly await the arrival of our baby, we're committed to building a loving and supportive family environment that prioritizes the well-being of both parents and child.